With episode 7 of Masters of the Air just being released, you know what that means. A trailer for episode 8 followed shortly after. Can you believe we've only got 2 episodes left of the season? It still feels like there's quite a lot for the show to wrap up, and I'm hoping that the pacing is gonna feel right as we enter the final stretch and it doesn't feel rushed. I'm hoping that things don't just get brushed over like what happened with Quinn's return back to base, because that was actually a story that I wanted to see getting developed and I thought we were going to see again. With it looking like the Tuskegee Airmen are going to be making an appearance for the first time in the show, and us returning to Stalag Luft 3 with Buck and Bucky, let's break down the trailer and explain all that there was to take away from it. Here is Masters of the Air Episode 8 Trailer Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer for episode 8 opened up with Bucky waking up inside the hut on his bunk and looking out of the window and seeing Buck and many of the other men being put to work, showing that the conditions have most probably become harder within Stalag Luft 3 following repercussions after what happened during the Great Escape. Bucky said the line, "What are we waiting for?" almost implying that he either wanted to do something to the guards or work on their own plan to try and get out of there. He said this to Buck and then it cut to a shot of both of them around a table with some other men, and one of them said, "We need to start preparing now." This was accompanied with a couple of shots intercut underneath it. There was one of Buck looking over at the guard that we saw in the previous episode asking Solomon if their name was Jewish, with us also hearing in the previous episode that they wanted to take a register of all of the Jewish prisoners in the camp. I wonder if something's going to potentially happen to Solomon, and this is the group looking to maybe take revenge in some kind of way. Amongst this, there was also a shot of the group watching this person almost running through the plan that was going to be taking place. He appeared to be fake hitting the person in front of him with papers and also holding a knife to somebody else. But judging by the lack of fight back and no real response from the group that were onlooking, I think this is just a run through of a plan rather than something actually kicking off, so I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen there. The next part of the trailer then cut to subaltern Sandra Westgate. The line of dialogue that we heard was spoken by an intelligence officer where they said, "Jean will brief you on your assignment. You leave tomorrow." At this point, we saw Sandra walking through the streets of occupied territory, providing only more mystery around what it is that she does. It almost seems like she could be some kind of informant or maybe even somebody that goes undercover. And with it looking like she had fake documents later on in the trailer, maybe she is somebody that goes undercover. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect to be seeing her again, so it's gonna be interesting learning more about her and her contribution in the war. Considering there was a lot of urgency when she had to leave Oxford, I imagine what she does is really important. Once she returned back to her base, she said, "I covered the entire building." However, in a shot that appeared afterwards, it looked like somebody had their eye on her and were growing suspicious of what she was doing as they were watching her. So I wonder how that's going to go for her. The next part of the trailer then cut to the Tuskegee Airmen, and a line was being spoken by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Jefferson. He said the line, "When are we going to get into some heavier action?" This was intercut with a shot of a P-51 which was called Margot. This was Alexander Jefferson's plane, which he named after a woman that he cared for dearly back home. With regards to the heavier action that was being spoken about, it was met with a response which was, "Plans are underway." I won't say any more about what happens to Margot and the situation Alexander Jefferson finds himself in, as I don't want to spoil what could potentially come up in the next episode, so I'll leave that one there with a bit of mystery. But that's who we were introduced to in that moment. After this, there was then a meeting that was taking place where Robert Rosenthal was leading, and he said how they were only a few hours away from the invasion of Europe, in which everybody then got up and cheered. This shows us that we're getting closer to D-Day and Operation Overload, where the Allies approached Normandy, something which will most likely be epic to watch on screen if it does happen. The final shot of the trailer was something which was epic in scale alone, let alone seeing the action that's going to be taking place. The next line in the trailer was by somebody called Davis, where they said, "Your mission is what makes it possible." I'm going to presume that this was Benjamin O. Davis Jr., who was a commander of the Tuskegee Airmen and was the first African-American brigadier general in the United States Air Force. He said the line, "Are we Tuskegee men or what?" and they all responded by saying, "Sir, yes sir." The next part of the trailer was then focused on Croz as he was on the phone and said the line, "Subaltern Westgate gave me this number to reach her." So this shows that he's still in contact with her and he's not been able to loosen the hold that she has on him. It was at this point when it then cut to her looking like she was in occupied France and her papers were being inspected by an officer. She looked like she was undercover in part of the operation that we got a glimpse of in the earlier parts of the trailer. We saw that after her papers were inspected, her documents were thrown back down towards her. I don't think this is because she's been found out or her cover has been blown, but I just feel this is probably because it looks like the officer doesn't respect her, as it seems like he's going to be walking away afterwards and not escalating the situation any further. The next part of the trailer that we saw had somebody called McCon, who I'm guessing is Frank McCon, who was part of the Tuskegee AirMen, and he said, "Do you know any other country that's better? And I know it's trying hard to become what it says it's supposed to be." It looked like he'd just got back from flying and being in battle due to the injuries that he looked like he sustained. This was also intercut with shots of them in the air dropping bombs, so we're going to be seeing the Tuskegee Airmen being thrown right into the action from the moment that we meet them. After this, the next part of the trailer put us back inside Stalag Luft 3 with Buck and Bucky. As Bucky said, "This looks like a work camp the way you jackasses are grinding away." I'm going to presume that this is taken from the first part of the trailer where we saw that Bucky woke up and saw them out of the window of the hut. It also seemed like both Buck and Bucky were going to get into a fight during this altercation, but I don't think it's going to be anything serious. The final part of the trailer was the section where I think it's going to get really interesting. We had a shot of Rosenthal in the air flying over the sea, and a voiceover was being spoken by him where he said, "Hundreds of ships, thousands of men, you've never seen anything like it." I wonder if this dialogue is being taken from the preparations and knowing what's going to be coming, or if it's taken from after he's returned from the final shot that we saw in the trailer, which was just utterly incredible. The sea was full and the sky was occupied too, showing the sheer force that the Allies were attacking the German forces with in France. It was the perfect shot to close off the trailer with providing suspense and intrigue, and it made me so excited to see how this next episode is going to go. Masters of the Air has been great at balancing out time between different locations, stories, and people, and I feel this episode, with the introduction of the Tuskegee Airmen, is going to follow that same approach, as it's adding a whole new set of people into the mix. I do worry that by introducing them only a couple of episodes before the end that it's going to make it feel a bit rushed, but the show hasn't really felt like that at any point, so it's probably just a worry. Like I said at the start, I can't believe there's only 2 episodes left. I'm going to savour these final ones because we've waited such a long time for the show, and I'll be gutted when it's finished because it's probably the best thing that's out there on TV at the moment. So, there you have it, Masters of the Air Episode 8 Trailer Explained. If you want to see more videos on Masters of the Air, then click on the card in the top corner. I've been covering the show since the beginning and I've been providing weekly breakdowns on it. The playlist is also over on the channel as well. I've also been covering Band of Brothers on the channel. I've released the episode 1 breakdown and I'll be releasing a breakdown of episode 2 very soon, so be sure to come back and watch that if you're interested. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think will happen in the next episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.